Welcome back to Up North at 4, and joining us now, two guests, Steve Budnik and Ted Rulseh, both of these gentlemen with the Lakes and Rivers Association. Steve representing Vilas County, Ted, of course, with Oneida County. And we'll start right from the beginning. Ted, tell us a little bit about what these associations, these organizations are all about.
Well, they're both very similar. I'll let Steve tell you about Vilas, but Oneida County Lakes and Rivers is dedicated to improving and protecting the waters of Oneida County through advocacy, collaboration, and education. We try to help people understand what the best practices are for keeping their lakes healthy and clean, whether they're lake visitors or lake residents.
Okay, totally.
Are we talking invasive species or? It is, right? Okay.
That's a big part of it. That's not the whole part of it. I think the number one focus is on keeping our shorelines natural and healthy, because what we do on the land affects what goes on in the water.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ted, because you mentioned what goes on in the land affects the water. And I think a lot of people maybe see it as two separate entities, as it were. But Steve, tell me a little bit about how we can just be more informed and be better people for that, and knowing how to protect our lakes while also protecting the land itself.
Well, as Ted mentioned, VCLRA is certainly all about education also, and as a result, protecting and advocating for the lakes. But we look at education from a number of standpoints. We do newsletters like a lot of organizations do. We've got 4 or 5 different programs. We've partnered with the Northwoods Land Trust, where people can set aside tracts of land in perpetuity. We have a program we call the Northwoods Businesses for Clean Water, where people that have the same vision, such as us, can, through their customers, spread the word about best practices and that sort of thing. We've got a initiative that we call the New Shoreline Owner Initiative, where they can go to our website, vclra.org, and get all kinds of good information, best practices, do's and don'ts, that sort of thing. And finally, the last one is just a Greet Your Neighbor program, where the best way to spread education is person to person, and where if you own a lake property and you know that the property next to you sold, well, we make it easy for that person to go greet their neighbor and again, provide do's and don'ts and best practices.
Maybe come over with like a baked good as a welcoming gift,
or adult beverage or something. Yes, absolutely.
So we did just have 4th of July, maybe not one of your guys' favorite holiday, because a lot of tourists coming into town, boats everywhere. So what can people do to really keep our lakes protected? What's the keys for that?
First of all, knowing best practices and rights for wrong. One of the things we talked about just before the show is most people don't realize in Vilas or Oneida County the number of properties that turn over in the course of a year. Full-time residences, seasonal cabins, vacant properties. But there's the point being, there's a continuous influx of new people buying Northwoods property, and a lot of those people come from urban areas and simply don't know right from wrong or best practices.
How to protect the waters and what makes the Northwoods so special.
So you think as an organization you've covered that, but you have to continually cover that, because it never ends.
Totally. Exactly. And Ted, we were talking before about the 6-county meeting. Tell me a little bit about what that's all about.
Yeah, that's an annual meeting that's held with, it's partnership between Oneida and Vilas County Lakes and Rivers Association. We also cover Forest, Iron, Langlade, and Lincoln counties. Hope to get good attendance from each of those. It's a chance to for people to talk about lakes, issues that are affecting their lakes, ways to keep the lakes clean for our future generations, like my grandsons Tucker and Perrin, who are watching today. And it's a great opportunity for lake lovers of all kinds to network, learn about the mutual issues that they have, and keep current with what's happening. We have a really interesting headline event this year. It's called Who You Gonna Call panel, and it's made up of people who are responsible for enforcing the laws as they relate to fish and game, shoreline zoning, tourist rooming houses, boating safety, and so forth.
All right. And unfortunately, we're up against the clock here, but I know if people do want to find more information, because of course the lakes and rivers are what make the Northwoods so spectacular and beautiful as is. Each of your organizations has a website, so check it out. But in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on Up North at 4.